Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program Midday Discourse. And on Global Television, I am Samuel Odi. Many thanks for joining at this time. Today, we'll be weighing what impact Wales will be having on his team with Harrison, Kamala Harris, and that's speaking about the U.S. election. This was made known yesterday. Kamala Harris, introduced Tim Walz, who is the current governor of Minnesota, as her running mate for the 2024 election, which is going to be kicking off in November. And they made their first appearance early hours of today, which is last night for them in the U.S. in Minnesota, where they were welcomed by a whole lot of persons, and then they got the campaign rolling already. So now a lot of persons are asking questions about who Tim Walz is, because most of the time he hasn't been so much in the media space, and he's not a kind of person that is always out there talking. So now a lot of persons have been asking. So let me bring you a quick background of who he is. Walz was a high school social studies teacher and a football coach and a union member before he got into politics. He served for 24 years in the Army National Guard, raising to the command sergeant major, one of the major highest enlisted ranks in the military. So this is a little bit of his background, and then looking at his background politically, he has been a reps member and as well an inner caucus member for both the Nigerian, the U.S. Army, the U.S. Army, and as well as the House of Reps member in the U.S. Congress House. He is also a congressman who has been, in the scene of politics for over 2 decades. And then so far, so good. Weighing the impact is going to be bringing on the team with Harrison for them to win the seat in the White House, capitalize a lot, because he is now a Western states governor. So Minnesota is one of the states in the West, and then for the past 2 decades now, Minnesota has never been in red, and then it has been ruled by the Democrats. So how is this going to be key and effective for him to be able to, bring his expertise and then get in some other territories, which is also close to the Midwestern part of United States, into the team of Harris, Kamala, for them to be able to win the seat against an opponent like Donald Trump, who is still yet to announce who his running mate is. So at this point now, we would be going on a quick break, and then when we come back, I'll be introducing my guests who would help us understand and stray all of these angles, and then see the impact that Wales will be bringing to the table against a team of Donald Trump. Please do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
Many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Midday Discourse on Global Television. I am Samuel Odi. So it's actually getting interesting already because, you know, Harrison has picked Wales, who is the current governor of Minnesota, and then he's also, you know, a local, someone that has served in the U.S. Marine for 24 years. He has been a social studies teacher, and again, he has been a football coach, and he has also been an inner caucus member while he was a reps member with the Democrats. So he has been part of the Democrats for a very, very long time now. And then it was said by Harris, Kamala, that he shares the same philosophy with her and all of that, and then that's one of the reasons. But there are still other angles to, you know, why she picked him, maybe because of the fact that he is, his state, Minnesota, has not been in the red zone for a very long time now, and then it has been, you know, dominated by the Democrats since the time of Barack Obama, and then even Donald Trump during his first time in office wasn't able to clinch and then conquer the Democrats. It's just more like a foothold for them. So now let's see with his impact now. Let's see what he can be able to bring to the table or to the camp of Kamala Harrison. But on today's program, my guest is actually very edgy, and then is really to like dive in and start extracting all of this. So at this point, I'm introducing my guest, Mr. Emmanuel Ozemena, a policy consultant and then a big fan of the U.S. election. How are you doing, sir?
Good day. So how are you?
Oh, very well, thank you.
Great.
Yes. So let's look at it. You know, you actually said something off air. So now you said Kamala has lost the election by this person that she picked, that is Tim Walz, that she picked as a running mate.
Yeah, because the key thing most people were looking at, initially she had 6, you know, nominees, possible nominees slated for the position of the VP.
Yes.
And before you know it, they were scaled down to 2. You know, you had Tim Walz and Josh Sparrow.
Yes.
And, you know, it was a tense moment. Normally, why politicians do that, or political parties ahead of election on a running mate, sometimes it's also to create media bliss. And finally, she made her decisions yesterday. And just like in anything in politics, any decision has its consequences.
Okay.
Very big events happened. One major event happened last week, which was the joint address by the Israeli Prime Minister to the U.S. Congress, Benjamin Netanyahu. And incidentally, you know, in the U.S., the vice president is the president of the Senate. So the vice president sits alongside with the speaker of the House of Representatives. Kamala Harris wasn't there.
Yes.
And it was purely political. She's avoiding getting into hot politics of what do we do with Gaza, what do we do with Israel. And in the U.S. politics, what you call Israeli lobby group, a very, very influential group that decides who, you know, who picks the presidency of the United States. And so she avoided being there, even though she had a side meeting later with the visiting Israeli Prime Minister, you know, in DC later in the day. But let me tell you something that it's quite impactful politically. The Israeli Prime Minister ended his day on Friday.
Yes.
In you know where? In Florida. And that's where, because by the Jewish law, he couldn't travel. The next day was Sabbath at sundown. That's the end of your activities. So he couldn't travel. He spent that weekend in Florida. That's where he attended synagogue. And that's quite impactful. The political optics of it. But Kamala had an opportunity, I mean, yesterday, of making a very important decision. That was on the VP. She, because of pressure, you know, scared over Josh Sparrow, the governor of Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania is one of the battleground states that they need to win. The Democratic Party need to win. In fact, early this morning, I read an article by a certain commentator who said, look, that they were expecting Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party to take a decision that was taken then, you know, in 2020 when a Jewish senator, Joe Lieberman, the late Senator Joe Lieberman, was picked as a running mate in a Democratic ticket. But Kamala, from all available information, I mean, buckled down under the pressure from pro-Palestinian group. And let's see how it turns out in November. So you could say that the election is over. In fact, in Trump camp, they're happy about her decision because for them it's an easy walk.
Donald Trump had this to say when this announcement was made. He said Tim Walz is going to open the floodgates of immigrants coming to the U.S. And again, he's also going to drain trillions of American dollars into waste. How true is that? Do you think that this current governor of Minnesota, now who is now the running mate of Harrison, is actually have the capacity to be able to do that?
Okay, two things.
That's looking at it from an economic angle now.
No, two things are there. At the moment, the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is in charge of the borders. Okay. So the question to ask: how has the borders been fed?
Okay.
Yeah. So if you've been given, usually because of the remit or how busy the president is, usually he would ask the vice president, please, could you mind this business? It's been a very, very not a successful business. I mean, the evidence here, the evidence is there on the street. I remember on December 25th, the governor of Texas, Abbott, got 5 lorry loads of buses and parked all the immigrants that are in Texas and went and dropped them by the White House gate and said, please, can you take it over? But the border hasn't been successful. And Minnesota has some level of immigrant population. Yes. So the governor actually would buckle down to ensure that he doesn't get them angry. I'm talking of Walz. And there was something that came up in the media earlier in the week. In fact, this morning. Yeah. Spiro was actually, they had to skip him. One of the reasons was that he wrote an article as a student, in praising the pro-Israeli movement. Yes. When he was 20. And another thing, he went to serve in Israeli Defense Force. So they say, look, how do we manage this in the face of a pro-Palestinian movement that seems to be taking over the U.S. colleges? And let me tell you why it's taking over U.S. colleges. They are getting, some of those schools, Columbia University, Harvard and what have you, are getting grants from the government of Qatar. Qatar, yes. So because of those grants, they have a lot of chairs, professorial chairs they have awarded in the business school. And you see how the U.S. seems to be domestic policy in America seems to be very complicated. The president of Harvard, the first female black president, African American president of Harvard, had to resign because of her lack of management of the pro-Palestinian movement. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the point is that all these issues would end up affecting the outcome of the elections.
We're actually weighing in, the impact of Walz now as a Midwestern state governor, and then he's expected to help Harrison show up her support in crucial states like, obviously, within Michigan and Pennsylvania, which is like the first place where they had their appearance, I think, early hours of today.
Earlier today.
Yes, so, with all of this happening now, and again, since he joined, her fundraising has actually gone up by $20 million, since the announcement was made.
Okay. Let me shock you a little bit. In the U.S. politics, money has less influence.
Okay.
Let's look at it. In 2016, Secretary Hillary Clinton, her campaign fund had more money than Donald Trump. Okay. But Donald Trump defeated her. That's one. Then, again, in terms of media support, half of the things you're seeing at the moment are actually media bliss. And media bliss, to a large extent, do not win elections. We've had presidential candidates who were dominating media, and then they lost elections. One interesting thing about the upcoming, for instance, Democratic Party conventions, this year, in 1968, when they had a crisis in Democratic Party, the President Johnson, by the time they killed the late Robert Kennedy was assassinated, President Johnson insisted that his vice president, Herbert Humphrey, becomes the nominee of the party. You know where the convention was held? Chicago, Illinois. And incidentally, 60 years after, they are back to Chicago, Illinois, under the same circumstances. Yeah. so the question to ask, police are asking, is it possible that we end up with Democratic Party losing this election? Because it's a coincidence of history. 60 years after, 64 years after, they are back to the same venue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking at his background now, because he is someone that has been, he has interest, 100% interest on the child abortion law and everything that's going on. What impacts can all of that play?
No, I think the key issues are, for instance, when you say in the Midwest, you have conservative people.
People, yes.
Yeah. So in the media, the moment that announcement was made, Watts was painted clearly as a far left opponent.
Opponent, yes.
As a far left proponent.
Okay.
So that also doesn't sit with the right. Because when you're talking about rural people are actually talking about jobs. They are talking about jobs and jobs. So I think the key issues in these elections will be determined by the economy, economic issues, jobs, and immigration. They'll be it's more of it will be more or less of abortion rights. I think abortion rights are actually the people who are pushing for abortion rights in the U.S.
Yes.
Actually, not the poor people. It's actually the elite.
The elite,
so
yes.
it's more of an elitist issue. And some have even said it's a policy targeted against African Americans. You know why?
Why?
Because it's a population control process.
Yes.
It's clearly a policy aimed at population control. That's what it is.
Yeah. So now you're seeming like the black communities now in the U.S. now wouldn't so much support this current administration or the aspiring administration of Kamala Harris.
If you are conversant with the media, issues have come about her stewardship as the Attorney General of California. I mean, what are they asking for? They're asking, look, that more black people were sentenced.
During her time?
During her time, that's one. Then also, there's another issue around the issue of some people who were wrongly sentenced, even to death. And she came to court and was smiling. And those people, several years later, they had to have a retrial and found out some evidence were hidden from the public. And that became a huge issue. If you go on internet, if you look through the U.S. media now, there's a lot of bliss on has Kamala Harris served the cause of black people. That's the key issue.
Okay.
So the point is that skin color may never really determine
I want to go further to congratulate you on being on DSTV 365. Yeah, channel 365 is an awesome thing. Congratulations, and I will enjoy each and every one to keep on watching Global TV.
This is Global TV. For your current affairs, for your current information, ideas, education, entertainment news at the best. Channel 365 on DSTV. You have just come alive into a new phenomenon in the media industry. Keep watching. Stay tuned.
Keep watching Global Television on DSTV channel 365 for your news and all national issues and international breaking news. Watch Global TV.
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here. Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
For staying with us, or if you're just joining, welcome on board. We're discussing or weighing the impact of Tim Wells, who is going to be the running mate, or who is rather the running mate of Kamala Harris for the 2024 election, which is set for November the 6th. You know, before we went on that quick break, we're trying to look at the angle of territorial control, which the Democrats are controlling 23, and then we have the Republicans controlling 27. So, Mr. Emmanuel, how key is it going to be now for the Democrats now to come around and then, maybe get a little states away from the Republicans, because those numbers are actually going to count for the polls?
Yeah, well, if you look at the midterm election that happened 2 years ago, what was the outcome? The midterm election didn't give... the expectation was that Democrats were going to make a lot of inroads, but they never did. They lost control of the Senate, of the House of Representatives,
yes.
which have more spread in terms of quality in terms of representation. Senate is by equality of states, but House of Representatives gives you actually the influence of each party in terms of spread by population. So going by that, I don't see Democrats, making any new inroads. Not in this election where the party's initial presidential candidate was actually bullied out of the race. In fact, there was a report I read yesterday where Nancy Pelosi, in an interview, was denying she didn't. I'm sure you saw it.
Yes.
So that shows there was a crack in the party. And that was the same, like I keep saying, a repeat of 1968. There was a huge crack in the party. So would they be able to build back the party? I doubt. Because, so if you look at it, I'm even seeing a possibility of Republicans taking over the Senate and having a majority in the Senate as well as the House of Representatives. Because the key issues are clearly, if you look at what was the economic policy of Trump, and what is currently the economic policy of Biden. And incidentally, they have nicknamed it Biden-Harris. Yeah, so that also creates bigger problem for the Democratic Party presidential nominee Harris, because what he's going to do is that every mistake that President Biden made would be shared by her. But usually, because when you nickname administration, it's usually one person. Obama administration, Trump administration. In fact, vice presidents are actually they're anonymous, if you may. If I ask you who was the vice president of Ronald Reagan, you may not remember. Who was the vice president of Jimmy Carter? So they are usually anonymous in terms of in that real sense of the word. But this was named Biden-Harris administration. So it's going to create a bigger problem for them. Whatever is a mistake of Biden, Harris would have to take responsibility for it. In fact, you would, if you've heard Trump talk or J.D. Vance, they keep talking about they messed up the border, and that's incompetence. So, but if it was a Biden administration, Harris can pull back and say, look, that was the president taking that decision. I didn't share in it. But now it's going to be a joint blame and a joint success, whatever it is.
Let's look at the angle of, the age now, because obviously Donald Trump has picked J. Vance as his running mate, who is a junior senator currently serving, who is 40 years old. Donald Trump himself, 78. And then Harrison and Tim Rose are just both combination of 121 years old, both of them. That's Harrison is 61 years old, and then Tim is 60 years old. So now, what role does age now have to play in terms of, winning this election?
But J.D. Vance, incidentally, is an author, so he has a lot of street support, so to speak. A lot of young people would want to key into whatever he's saying. Like, there was a Trump was speaking at an event. He said, look, my vice president will be like a president in waiting. So people will be looking at what happens after Trump. And more so, Trump is going to do, he has only one tenure to do. So people will be looking at, can we have the next president at 44, because that's what it
it
will look like.
Because France are actually enjoying it at this point, looking at Emmanuel Macron, who is also obviously still is the youngest, president in the world.
So I think what would happen is Biden had to drop over age, not necessarily age, but because of they were thinking he didn't have the cognitive capacity to carry on as president. And Trump has also would say, look, Harris was aware, so he's a culprit, that type of thing. Yes. But which is political, yes. Big political talks. But the key issue is, I think age may not play big role, but it will play a big role. But let's just see how it unfolds in the next few days. So if you do, and like you rightly said, the aggregate age of the two tickets,
yes.
Trump tickets looks like the younger ticket.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, because the two each combined together
yes.
is 118.
18,
where,
yeah.
3 years actually apart, so which is not totally so much.
Yeah.
But it's also going to have its own course to play. Looking at Wells still, because we're focusing on him. Looking at him now and J.D. Vance now, who are obviously both the two vice presidents contesting against each other. How do you think now it will pan out if you have these two persons contesting for a proper election?
Oh, okay. First of all, Trump, I think earlier in the week, agreed to a debate. But this time around, it will be done by CNN. The first debate with Biden was organized by CNN. So, and Trump said ABC wouldn't do it, because currently he's in court with ABC. So that would be conflict of interest.
Yes.
Yeah. So they are now looking at force. Organizing the next debate. I think sometime in September, 5th or 8th of September. So that debate will open some new, it will be an opportunity for us to assess the two candidates. So what to do, I think everybody's looking forward to it. Let's see how that debate would impact on the race. But again, between J.D. Vance and Watts, it will be firecrackers. Firecrackers in terms of J.D. Vance has got the power of the stage. Watts, talked about word. I think that's a new word he coined in this political circle, campaign circle. Let's see how he's able to match the firecrackers coming from a younger Senator J.D. Vance. But I think it's going to be a campaign, an election. They have just less than 100. In fact, it's about 90 days.
Yes.
Yeah, in that 90 days, it's going to be firecrackers. It's going to be bumper to bumper, like they say in Nigeria. But I think one of the biggest mistakes, you could look at it in 1952, in 1968, that the Democratic Party made was delaying on who was going to fly their flag. In 1952, in 1964, the decisions were made by the incumbent not to run in March. So you now saw a decision being taken in July. So, and at the day the decision was taken, you had less than, it was just 110 days or 15 days. So the impact, because in the US election is such that you must begin on time. You must have time to tour. Like Trump said, look, Kamala Harris emerged without a due process. What it means is that you have to be a candidate visiting every precinct, visiting every county, visiting every state, asking them, look, within your party, getting their support. So the idea of saying, look, we held a virtual whatever with delegates and all that. So I think there's a process of becoming president of the US. When you do that visit, you are connecting with the people. It's not like we do in Nigeria here, where somebody walks up, emerges, people meet up at Eagle Square and then crown the person as their candidate. So in the US, you must connect. So 90 days, is it enough for Harris' campaign to connect? If you ask me, the answer is no. So half of the things you'll see, they are appealing to people who are at the top level. And those people are not the real voters. If you look at, in 2016, there was a post-election analysis I did. I realized that all the polls, whether it's the Economics, London Times, London Observer, New York Times, and what have you, Time Magazine, Newsweek, they all gave it to Secretary Hillary Clinton. But she lost that election. So you know what? They were not talking to the real people. You know, you have what is called the fallacy of pooling. In pooling, you can decide to talk to people you want to talk. You want to talk to, because you are working from answer to question. So they didn't talk to the real voters. And that's why Trump ended up emerging. And I see that also repeating in this election cycle.
Okay, we'll be going on a quick break, and then when we come back, Midday Discourse continues as we continue to x-ray and then weigh the impact of Tim Wells to the Harrison-Kamala group. With us, so welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So let's look at this angle. You know, Donald Trump looks very relaxed since the announcement. Aside from the comment, he's saying that, you know, the vice president, if he does win, that's Tim Wells now, is going to open up the floodgates for illegal immigrants to come into the country. Who do you think Kamala Harris would have picked and then would shake the Republicans a little because they look unwavering with this pick?
No, just Spiro.
Just Spiro.
Yeah, would have done that.
So why do you think Just Spiro would have pushed?
First of all,
yes,
his age would have, reached a lot of young people in terms of his management of stage. And he is also a governor of a battleground state. A battleground, Pennsylvania, because they need to win it. I think there are about 19 electoral votes there, so they need it. But the way it's looking now, I'm not sure they might likely get it. Let me give you an example. During the midterm election in New York, there was a huge battle around the governorship of New York. And suddenly, the governor, the lady who finally won, had to reach out to the Jewish community. New York. They control New York.
The Jewish.
And she ended up winning that election. Very tough battle. On October 7th, 2023, when Hamas invaded Israel, the next day the woman took a flight, the governor took a flight to Israel, spent 1 week over there. So the point is this: the pro-Palestinian group you have at the moment in the US, some believe that the Democratic Party is kowtowing to them, and that would impact on them in these coming elections. I can tell you, there are a lot of places where they had won before, Democratic Party, they may not likely get votes. Minnesota, they are going to get a couple of whatever there. Perhaps that's why the governor is chosen. But the point is that for Trump campaign, their strategies, I've listened to them. I've listened to Democratic strategies. I think it will be, the coming days will be very, very interesting.
Okay, now let's look at this angle. Now, looking at the states now, the Republicans control 27 states of the territory, and then the Democrats control 23 states. So how key is it now going to be for the Republicans now to have more domain in terms of, winning states like Michigan, Pennsylvania as well?
Well, I think I read a report a couple of days ago talking about the influence of the independent voters. Nobody's talking about independent voters, even though now you have you have 3 independent candidates in the race. You have John F. Robert Kennedy Jr. is in the race. You have quite a lot of, you have the Green Party candidates, and you have the black professor, on the race.
Yeah.
So what is going to happen is, in the independent voters, their decision, their input, their impact on the total outcome, nobody should discountenance it. So they are expecting Kennedy to make a decision in the next couple of days. I read somewhere he might likely throw his weight around Trump. And if he does that, that will be a plus for Trump. Because he got angry with the party. Remember, his father was assassinated in 1968 when he became the presumptive candidate of the party. Not as if he has a sense of entitlement. He is feeling that the party should have given him an opportunity to run. So that opportunity wasn't provided. And there will be a lot of people in the party who feels that there was no level playing ground. Perhaps President Biden knew he wasn't going to be a candidate. Perhaps that's why he delayed the process so that they can use the back door to bring in a candidate. Because he was afraid of contest. People or politicians who are afraid of contest want to use the back door.
The back door, yes.
Yeah, because if you look at the 2020 elections, Kamala Harris contested in the primaries. I mean, what was her impact in that primary? I mean, she didn't make any impact in the real sense of showing that connection with the ordinary people. So there will be a lot of people within the party who feel dissatisfied. So their decisions and the decisions of the independent voters would have a lot of impact on the outcomes of the elections.
Okay, we are actually running out of time at this currently, but do you think that Kamala Harris and her new running mate can be able to win this election?
I doubt. Because for Trump, the level of confidence Trump had exercised in the last 24 hours shows you they may have something up their sleeves. I don't know what it is. In fact, I was speaking with a friend, 2 of my friends in the last 2 days who are independent. One say I'm going to vote the Green Party. The other one say I'm going to vote
the blue.
the other guy. But when we spoke a few hours after this decision, they are saying, look, I think we are taking we're taking a detour.
Yes.
Yeah. So there will be a lot of independent candidates who. Let me tell you what I want to also tell Nigerians is there are people who are going to vote in that election are not here. First, that's number one.
Yes.
Because I was speaking with somebody yesterday night. We're trying to analyze the developments, and the guy was speaking as if the election, the voters are Nigerians. I told him, no, the voters are not Nigerians. The domestic issues in the U.S. will determine the decisions of the outcome of the elections. But I think Trump has an edge now at the moment.
Looking at this angle now, the Republicans are actually obviously going to do everything within their power, most especially someone like Donald Trump, who feels, the state is dying. But do you think that chaos, that riot that was sponsored by the people of the Republicans is actually going to play a factor?
No, it didn't say. Have you read the report, January 6th report?
The January 6th report.
Yeah, it didn't say Republicans did that. I'm sure. I've read a copy of the report.
Okay,
it's about
the followers of Donald Trump.
Well, I don't know, but I think the more. What I have realized, the more you take Trump to court, the more you say you are trying Donald Trump, it seems to become an energy, an energizer for the campaign. Because people simply felt this is political prosecution, or persecution rather. And that has had a lot of impact on Donald Trump popularity. In fact, Donald Trump is riding on that popularity because the more you push that narrative, the more you realize that people say, oh, wait a minute, where are you going to? I'm sure in the next few days, perhaps Kamala is already talking. She's a prosecutor,
yes,
and this is a felon and all that. Let's see how it goes. Especially at their, in fact, I'm looking forward to their debate. Let me see how they are going to, slug it out with each other during that debate.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel Ozemana, for joining us on today's edition. And I'm also looking forward to that debate, which is set for September 5th, 2024. Hopefully, we would get you live coverage of that event. And on that note, that's how we'll be drawing the curtain on today's edition of the program. My name is Samuel Odi. Bye for now.